Let me see if y'all gave me any donations. Let me see. I'm giving y'all all my wisdom, but where the donations at? Last donation to the school was Richard Harris. Somebody better get on their Cash App. Somebody better get on their Cash App. Cash.me/$FDMG school. I better get some donations. I'm about to hang up.
And that wasn't even intentional. Before I get into my greetings, my salutations, I want to say shout out to Dane who donated. Shout out to Asmahan, my Bloomsburg homie, who donated to the cause. If you'd like to donate to the cause, hashtag Quantify LLC. But now let's get it started. Peace, peace, peace. I am Phillip Roundtree, and you are tuned into the June 24th edition of Rhetorically Speaking. So, listen, man, I keep it real on here too. So let's find out what's happening in my life right now. Right. So if you've seen on Facebook, you've seen that I've been chronicling my Caucasian neighbors. Just last week, I had to call the police. Right. I had to call the police because they were fighting some white neighbors on the other end of the block. Now, the thing with my block is it's extremely long. It's an extremely long block. And so there's like some duplexes that is like the divider for the block. And so even though I don't know anybody on my block except the black folk, it's been this way for the last 10 years that I've been living here. I still know faces. On the other end, that is not the case. That's not the case at all. And so, last week, I'm chilling in the room like I do chilling, and I hear a whole lot of commotion. I come out and I see the new neighbors. They've been a distraction, disruptive for the longest time. They've been a distraction for the longest time. And it's just like, yo, I'm sick of y'all. Like, I'm legitimately sick of y'all. Y'all need to go. Y'all need to go. Y'all can't be here. And again, it's white folk, probably Section 8. I feel 1,000% comfortable in saying that. Ain't nothing wrong with Section 8. Listen, you got to get it how you get it. Right? You got to get it how you get it. I know some amazing people who, listen, we know how the economy is. We know how difficult it can be if you're born into or live in poverty. We know exactly how difficult that can be. So I'm empathetic to all of that. But these motherfuckers is tripping. They be making they little weed man pull up in they little black little Jeep. He pull up, young boy go out, her son go out and get the weed. They getting high, popping Xannies probably, I'm assuming, because my interactions with her have been few. But her speech was slurred. She could barely walk and all that. Right? And so I come out. I'm like, oh, what's going on? I see all my neighbors out. And they fighting these people from down the street. And so with that, I'm just like, nah, I'm not feeling this. This is about 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'm not feeling this at all. Let me call the man. 911, yes, these Caucasian people are wilding. They're wilding out in these streets. Somebody just got maced. The daughter, teenage daughter, and mind you, the mom is about 39. Teenage daughter, I'm not making no judgments, right? No more judgments at all. Daughter about 16, 15, she comes out and gets aggressive with the people. She got that ass maced. And you hear her screaming. And it's just all this calamity that's taking place on my quiet block. Now, the reason why I bought my house on this block was because it was a bunch of old white people. But I didn't think far in advance to think that old white people die. And when old white people die, young, out of control people might move in. And move in did they. And so the police came out, and of course they come to my house because I'm the one that made the call. Nobody else called. And I said, oh yeah, they right over there. Fast forward to yesterday, right? Well, fast forward to today. My neighbor, she says, Phil, come over here. So I come over. Hey, Mr. Nita, how you doing? She like, they beat Barry up. They beat Barry up. What? They jumped Barry. Barry is this old white guy, probably in his late 50s, early 60s. He's the type of neighbor who waters the people's lawns next door to him, and he mows their lawns, all of that. Well, he had an altercation with them when the mom allegedly pushed her little son, her 2-year-old, 3-year-old son, down the steps. And then what he said to her was, don't do that. That's why you probably broke your daughter's arm too. And so the daughter got a little broken arm. And it's just like, whoa, she snapped. And this was a couple weeks ago. She was like, I'm going to bomb your house. My people's in the police force and all of this. And so, fast forward to the day, they jumped Barry. Apparently, a group of them got with Barry, and they start punching on him. And they start punching on him heavy, to the point where he got a gash. He went to the hospital, and they've been laying low ever since. And so you know me, I'm trying to get people up out of here. I started searching for lawyers. Can we sue the people who own the house? Not me personally, but Barry. I told Miss Anita, I said, listen, I testify if need be. And so it's hard when you're doing a show and there's just so much movement going on, but we just going to keep it going anyway. And so I don't know, maybe it's just me. But when I like these neighbors, man, like neighbors can really make or break your experience in a home. They can really make or break your experience in a home. And so this white on white crime is too much. Barry is white too, by the way. Again, it's too much. I felt like that Monique meme that's been circulating. Like, oh my God, this too much. It did warm my heart a little bit when I did get to call the police on white folk. I can't lie. I felt a little good about that. Judge me if you may. But we're going to get into it. Shout out to the people who are watching on Facebook, people who are watching on Facebook Live. Give me a second so I can shut my door because these birds is chirping. What is up with these birds chirping? And what's up with these fireworks? Like, I can't be the only one who's been experiencing this. Like, yo, I can't say that it's beyond annoying. Like, I feel like the birds are getting up extra early and they paying people back for the fireworks that's taking place late at night. Like, I don't necessarily have no proof in that, but it seems legit to me. All right, the birds a little quiet. Shout out to my assistant who's over there. Now they not making as much noise. Always appreciate it. But we're going to get right into these stories, man. So first, you know, I wasn't aware of this story. I wasn't aware of this young man who was brutally murdered at the hands of the police. One, Elijah McClain. And so if you need a little background on who Elijah McClain is and was, God bless the dead, he was from Aurora, Colorado, and he died of a heart attack, allegedly, right? And because I hate to put died of a heart attack if it was indeed induced by, well, I guess it would still be a heart attack, but the means would be murder, would be homicide, even though the coroner is saying that it's undetermined. And we know how coroners can be. We saw it with George Floyd. We've seen it with so many others, where the coroners are agents of the police and agents of the government. And so their job is to keep the status quo. And so this was back last August 24th, 2019. 3 officers responded to a report of a suspicious person walking. Now, the thing about Elijah is he was anemic, and so sometimes he would wear a mask if it was too cold, right? Because we know what anemia is. If not, go to WebMD. And so he had a faceless mask where you could just, you can see a part of his face, going to the store to go get some tea for his brother. He's walking back home and he gets stopped. See, this is the issue that I have when the police respond to these calls of a suspicious person. Suspicious person, what are they doing? Oh, they're walking. Or why are they suspicious? Because they're black in your neighborhood. Rewind to a few years ago, and I've told this story before. I was in a white town here in Pennsylvania, right out of Philadelphia, Plymouth Meeting. It's an affluent neighborhood, and my car just breaks down completely. Can't start it. Didn't go knock on the door. I just automatically called the tow truck. Sat with the hood open and started pouring down rain. It's only about 4 or 5 houses on the block. They like mini mansions. Next thing I know, the police pull up behind me. Asking me, is everything okay? I said, my car broke down. It's like, yeah, well, I got a call for a suspicious person. Of a suspicious person. And I'm like, oh, word, a suspicious person. My car's broke down with the hood open. So maybe I'm missing something. And so it was like, well, let me see. So I turned the car. Car didn't start. He asked me, do I have a license and registration? I said, for what exactly? For what exactly? And this was in July, right around the time Philando Castile had been murdered. This might have been right before. And I'm like, for what exactly? No disrespect. But I'm not giving you my license because I'm not breaking any laws. My car is broke down. If you want to see my car try to start and not start, be my guest. But I'm not showing you anything. How risky was that? How ballsy was that? I'm out there by myself. Just he and I. This could have went completely different. And so he still ended up running my tags, right? Didn't even ask if I needed help. I said, yeah, but I still say, yeah, I called the tow truck. And he says, okay. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And he said, yeah, what happened to the days where people would ask others if they were okay? And I said, that's bullshit, because you perpetuated the exact fears that this individual had. You're complicit in this. So don't say what happened to the days. You could have pulled up. Or you could have asked, your dispatch could have asked, well, what is the crime that's being committed? Like we saw with Ahmaud Arbery. Oh, he's just jogging. All right, what's the problem? And so the same thing is taking place with Elijah McClain. And so here we have Elijah coming back from the store, all of 140 pounds. Then a report says he struggled with officers for nearly 15 minutes, repeatedly sobbing and vomiting. Why are you touching him? You get what I'm saying? Why are you touching him? Why are you in this space? All right, let's say you did come out to this suspicious person who's walking down the street. Why are you trying to touch him? Why are you going to say he's resisting arrest? What is he being arrested for? What are the charges? Walking while black? And so apparently he was quote unquote resisting and being aggressive. Again, 140 pounds. 3 officers. You do the math. Repeatedly sobbing and vomiting. How much resisting are you doing? And then he ultimately was sedated with ketamine to try and sedate him. What? And so I'm reading this story because I refused to watch the body cam footage. Because, of course, it was probably in a downward position, so you really couldn't see everything that was taking place. And so when we talk about defunding the police and we talk about ending immunity for police, which I believe Colorado might have been the first state to do. I'm just look that up real quick. But I believe Colorado passes landmark law against qualified immunity. A little late, right? A little late, because Elijah McClain lost his life. These officers were put on desk duty for a little bit administrative leave, and then they got their job back after a flimsy investigation. But after he was loaded with ketamine, he survived 2 heart attacks en route to a nearby hospital and was pronounced dead 6 days later. Again, he was never suspected of any crime and was unarmed. I hate that we got to use the term unarmed. We see this so often because even if he was armed, still didn't warrant being killed, still didn't warrant being harassed by police. It just didn't. And they say, well, why don't he comply? Comply for what? What is compliance in this situation if my civil liberties are being infringed upon? When the civil servants for whom my taxes are paying for are out harassing me? What's the consequences for the person who called reporting a suspicious person? And that's why there are counties in places like Oregon that say masks are mandatory. And this is fact. You can look this up. I wasn't going to talk about it, but now it just fits. There's a county in Oregon that's 97 and 98% white that's mandating masks unless you're a person of color, because they recognize the implications related to wearing a mask in a predominantly white area. How wild is that? How wild is that? And so in this case, you either going to die by the Rona or you going to die by the people. Right? You either want to catch the Rona or you going to be racially profiled. How fitting. Lincoln County, Oregon is where this is taking place. And so with Elijah McClain, whose death was completely preventable because the phone call shouldn't have been made on him anyway. But we know how it is when you're a young black man, a young black woman, a young black person. Shit, you could be old for that matter. You can have the cops called to you for no reason at all. And so now here we are, we starting to see all of these cases starting to catch steam. We start looking back like, oh, this Buffalo police officer was fired because she intervened when her partner was exhibiting excessive force? Oh, that was 16, 17 years ago? Yeah, let's bring this back. This don't look right. We bringing everything back. Why? Because we know who you've been, America. We know who you've been. We see it with Elijah McClain, who has multiple heart attacks and is declared brain dead. All because he went to the store wearing a mask because he has a medical condition to get some iced tea. Egregious. no accountability. And so we see petitions coming out. We see a petition with 2 million signatures saying, no, we need to take another look at that. And so the Adams County District Attorney, where this took place at, Dave Young, said, I don't open up investigations based on petitions. Now, obviously, if there's new evidence to look at, I'll look at evidence in any case. So, the status quo. The same things we continue to deal with now in 2019 with Elijah McClain. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 75 years ago, and throughout history. We need more. We got to show and prove more. It's not enough. It's not enough to say you killed a young man for no reason. It was unwarranted. It was unwarranted. Like, that's not enough. Like, that logic isn't enough. But no, we need more evidence. What more evidence do you need? I'm not obligated to talk to you if I'm walking down the street. Because you say you got a suspicious report. You could be lying and saying that just to stop me. Just to profile me. We see that as well. Stop and frisk. So what has taken place within the last month or so, the city manager appointed, and again, it tells you how effed up the entire system is, the entire legal system, right? And politics as well. So the city manager appointed attorney Eric Daigle, right? A former police officer, to lead a review, because pushback started to come from other entities, from the policy region. From the people, it's just not enough, and that's just the reality. Unless you out here firebombing cars, pulling down statues, then they might listen to you. They might hear you out a little bit. And so the city manager hired a former police officer to lead the review. How that just smells like corruption, doesn't it? And so thankfully the city council pushed back against that and said, no, you got to find somebody else. This not going to work. This ain't going to work. And I failed to mention that they had him in a chokehold, which was inducing the vomit. And that one of the officers can be heard saying, stop moving, or I'm going to sick the dogs on you. When you read the transcript of what he's actually saying, he's saying, I'm an introvert. You know, I rarely leave the house. Like, these are the, I can't breathe. Like, this is what he's verbalizing in the midst of being killed. But he's a suspicious person, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens with this case. Just like we'll see what happens with all these other cases. I'm sure y'all seeing how they trying to besmirch the name of Rayshard Brooks by saying he was married, but now this white woman who was allegedly burned up the Wendy's, that was his girlfriend. And you read these articles and they keep referencing that. They could have mentioned it, because if it's journalism, if it's news, you got to. But the amount of times they kept referencing this, it's like, okay, we see what the agenda is. We see clearly what the agenda is. Again, it's never about the people. It's not about providing the people information, right? Listen, man, rest in peace, Elijah McClain. Now we about to get to the cancel aspect of the show. So now they trying to cancel Bubba Wallace. If you're not familiar, bring you up to speed. Bubba Wallace is one of only 7 black NASCAR drivers in the history of the sport. Right, one of 7. And so he held their feet to the fire last week, within the last 2 weeks, telling them, listen, y'all got to get rid of these Confederate flags. And NASCAR obliged, because, again, we're in a time where you got to pick a side. That didn't stop them racist folk. It didn't stop the people that NASCAR has appealed to since their inception. That didn't stop them from bringing Confederate flags to the parking lot, having planes with banners that say defund NASCAR. Like, this is y'all base. This is who y'all built up. Fast forward to Sunday, a noose was found in Bubba Wallace's garage. It was found by one of his crew members, which was subsequently given to, well, prior to that, he told Bubba about it. He did his research about it because he wanted to be right. Unfortunately, you got to be right these days. You got to be 100% or people are going to attack you. You got to be 100% accurate. And so he did his due diligence. And so they took it to NASCAR. NASCAR hit up the FBI like, listen, we need to investigate this. There was a noose in this garage. Does it make sense? Coming off the heels of banning the Confederate flag, of the protests that were taking place outside? Of course it does. Of course it does. Because we know people will find ways to hate. And so with that, the FBI did an investigation. NASCAR did an independent investigation. And what it turned out to be was supposedly, because we haven't seen pictures of the noose. And I continue to say noose, even though the FBI says that it's rope that's been there since October of 2019, before Bubba Wallace's crew even set foot in that particular garage. They still referenced it as a noose because it was tied up like a noose. Also, Bubba's crew member and NASCAR, I'm assuming, went around to all the garages to see. Because they have ropes when you pull. You know how it is when you pull down a garage. It might have a little rope. I'm sure their garage is a little bit different. You might need a little more sturdier rope. And there was no other of the sort. Now, another noose was found at another raceway as well. And that's been underreported. I wonder why. And so the FBI said, listen, there's no hate crime here. Well, what he said was there's nothing there to warrant continued federal investigation. But it's still a noose. And NASCAR said that they're going to continue their investigation because it's still a noose. Right? Let's not get away from the fact that it's still a noose. Now, NASCAR came out and made this lengthy statement about how much they abhor racism and the perpetrator will be found. You got people pushing back against that, saying they jumped the gun too soon. They should have waited. NASCAR knows what their history is. They've known that they've created a hotbed for racism. That if racism was a currency, they'll be billionaires. And so they called themselves jumping out in front of it. Because again, you got to be on the right side. Especially when you've been on the wrong side for so long. When former owners or commissioners of racing were in bed with George Wallace. If you don't know who George Wallace is, do your research. And so going forward, this investigation I hope that they find out who the person is, because it's still a noose. And why would you tie the rope in that manner? Right? Like, these are the questions that people have. And so, no, it might not have been, it might not have been malicious towards Bubba, because Bubba wasn't there, or towards any other black racer or minority racer. Bubba was the only black racer and has been the only black racer for some years. But could have been a joke going awry amongst some white drivers. Hey, or some crew members. Hey, I'm gonna put this rope in a noose. Ha ha ha! Is this funny? Very well might have been. And I'm sure if they got surveillance and cameras like we think they do, then they'll find out who the perpetrators were who tied it. But people have come out against Bubba. Oh, I said, what if this was like a Jussie Smollett situation? I think Jussie did his thing a little early. He was a little premature. Probably about 18 months. If Jussie would have did that now, he would have no charges. He would be able to skate through, instead of an example being made of him. And even though I didn't feel like Bubba would be that type of individual, why? Because first, I don't think he desires attention that bad. Two, I think this whole entire situation has him reevaluating his blackness. If you listen to him do radio interviews for so long, and just different appearances, you hear him talk about, he's doesn't necessarily feel as black as others, right? He's a musician in a band, got a white girlfriend. He's grown up in a place where he might not necessarily have had to really lean into his blackness until all of these incidents taking place, and he got his Negro wake-up card, which is a beautiful thing to see. It's a great thing to see somebody coming into their own, standing on their own too, saying, listen, you will not shake me. I'm starting to understand who I am and my voice in this world as a black man. When he's gone most of his life in maybe two worlds, or maybe leaning more so to the other side. And so now here he is, truly leaning into his blackness. And so for people to say it was a hoax, I'm glad he doubled down on it and said, I know what I saw. It was a noose. Like, point blank. I don't have to explain anything to anybody. It's not about having egg on my face. Because even if it was a noose, but that wasn't the intended purposes, the imagery wasn't for it. Again, why would you do it that way anyway? We still see the consequences of Bubba speaking out. With these racist white folks coming to the track with their Confederate flags. One thing I am curious to see is how Bubba is going to, the more he leans into his blackness, what that means for his white girlfriend. I mean, we seen him with Russell Wilson, right? Russell, even though his white girlfriend allegedly slept with a teammate, his wife actually allegedly slept with a teammate. He said, all right, let me lean into Sierra. Let me get some cornrows. Let me get a chain. If I'm going to lean in, I'm going to lean all the way in. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm interested to see. I have no desire to follow racing. Because, again, riding around the track 500 times, not necessarily entertainment to me. Not necessarily entertaining to me. So, Best wishes to Bubba. And last but not least, we bringing it back. Aunt Jemima, Nancy Green, God bless the dead, is back in the news. I mean, they've been in the news continuously for this last week, but then leave it up to it. I can't even say what she is. I'm just going to play the video, and I'll let y'all figure it out.
Aunt Jemima was canceled. And if you didn't know, Nancy Green, the original first Aunt Jemima, she was a picture of the American dream. She was a freed slave who went on to be the face of the pancake syrup that we love and have in our pantries today.
I'm going to play that one more time for y'all, just so y'all could hear the effery, right? Y'all can hear the effery that she's spewing at this Trump rally in Arizona, because this can only take place at a Trump rally in Arizona, right? Run it back for y'all.
Aunt Jemima was canceled. And if you didn't know, Nancy Green, the original first Aunt Jemima, she was a picture of the American dream. She was a freed slave who went on to be the face of the pancake syrup that we love and have in our pantries today.
And so that white woman is Reagan Escude. Right? Reagan Escude. And this was at a Trump rally within the last 24 to 48 hours in Arizona. And she's saying that Nancy Green lived the American dream by being on some pancake syrup. This reminds me from like the BET Comic View days. I do not remember who the comedian is, but he said, "Who in the hell left the gate open?" So this young woman, she just graduated college a year ago. I'm not going to say what school. I believe it was a school in Louisiana. I don't know if they want to be associated with this because they're producing this type of product. But even when I thought about that, because I'm an advocate for higher education, I'm like, dang, I wonder what she was like when she got into college. They might have instilled something in her, right? To have her not be as ditzy as she is in this moment. Now she's talking about Nancy Green lived the American dream by being on a pancake box, pancake syrup. How she got a lifetime contract from Aunt Jemima, which has caused alleged heirs to sue Quaker Oats for royalties because they haven't received any. Now, there's been several lawsuits. They're saying she's living the American dream by still being a housekeeper at the age of 89. If she was living the American dream, if she was paid handsomely, Snopes already did their investigation, which showed that she was not a millionaire when she died. Because, a lot of people like to throw it out. Well, she had a lifetime contract and she was a millionaire when she died. No. Because a millionaire in the 1930s, having $1 million is the equivalent of having $13 million right now. So you telling me she liked them white folk that much that she wanted to stay and be their housekeeper at 89 years of age? No, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. I think the beautiful thing about all of this is that we're learning more about Nancy Green, who I wasn't familiar with. I just know that Aunt Jemima done had some black folk on the box, just like Uncle Ben's. But the more you learn about it, the more you research it. How they took her to a carnival-esque fair for her to be the representative, to be made a mockery of, where the name Aunt Jemima stems from, where the song stems from, rooted in racism and blackface and hate and oppression. But she the American dream because she made it to a pancake box and some syrup. Now, eyes don't knows, but maybe I should be happy about that, boss. Or maybe that's a crock of shit. And maybe here what we have and continue to have these white elitists who think they're elitists, but they're intellectually deprived. And incapable of having any real understanding about the humanity of another person or about the system that they live in. And so I went on her Twitters, right? Her Twitters. Add the S to it. And I'm like, maybe she recanted. Maybe she say she misspoke, because we know that's what people do. Yo, my bad. I ain't mean to say it like that. Even though I meant to say it like that. And what she said was, Aunt Jemima, not Nancy Green, Aunt Jemima rose above what was a horrible situation and turned it into something good, leaving a legacy that Americans will remember forever. Hence the American dream. It's a shame that most don't understand. First, she Aunt Jemima. She Mammy. And shout out to Mammies because they did an amazing job. We are forever indebted to Mammies. But she called her Aunt Jemima. Rose above what was a horrible situation. She was born into slavery. And still left. It had to be somebody's servant. Jim Crow was in existence. Again, the American dream, right? But she turned it into something good because she made it to a pancake box. And the monies that she did receive from it, she was able to tithe a little bit at church. Right? This is the dream. This is the dream. Again, for me, it's funny. But unfortunately, she's going to be one of the thought leaders, rather, in this country. She's going to get a powerful position. She's going to be making decisions. Right? Like, let's think about her trajectory. People are going to rally behind her. She might be the next Sarah Palin. Or she might be the next Sarah Palin's daughter. We don't know. But I think probably the former, since we know how America gives it up out here. And then to the family of Nancy Green, who's saying that they're against the having her removed from the box is going to mess up her legacy. Listen, you go put her in a museum. You go put the box in a museum. But again, everything that it represents, it's negative. It's hateful. It's oppressive to a community. And even to you, if you sat back and looked at it. Did she make lemons out of lemonade? Potentially. Did she find some honor in being a representative? I'm sure of it. Did she probably think that by her participating in this, that she's opening doors For other black folk, no doubt. But everything runs its course. And it's time for her to go in the museum, go in the Smithsonian, that African American History Museum that you got to get tickets for 6 months in advance. It go in there and they can have an entire shrine to Nancy Green. I just don't want to see it in my Walmart aisles. And just like that, we out of here, man. Listen, it was a beautiful time. I appreciate y'all. I'll be back tomorrow. If all goes well, tomorrow's movie night. But we gonna see. We gonna see how it go. Until tomorrow, peace.